So, real quick tee up on this one. As I've mentioned, getting the chance to travel around the world and meet with leaders in government in particular, but also in business, has been really valuable. Probably 5 years ago, I was traveling to Washington, D.C. every single month, and I was meeting with members of Congress and the Senate, encouraging them to follow Jesus. And then um, we took a few trips, but one of them was to Southeast Europe. And we were meeting with members of parliament and encouraging them to meet with around Jesus and meet with each other and across party lines, etc. And we were following up, I remember very clearly there was actually an ambassador there as well. And he says, "Hey, listen, we've been meeting together now for years. We've been meeting together around Jesus. We've been learning how to love each other across party lines." And then he pauses, and this ambassador looks us dead in the eye and he goes, "When are you actually going to help us?" And what he meant is it's nice to meet around the person of Jesus, and it's nice to take his ideas, but sometimes you actually have to practically help people. Get in there with them, next to them, and support them. And business is really a great way to do that. So that's stuck with me, and I've talked about that for a long time. And then you fast forward about 2 or 3 years, and I formed a cohort of 10 leaders from around the world, international leaders. And the intent was just to connect them together, and we did some mentoring and some loving on them. But two of them paired off, and they both told me individually, "I don't really know why, Andy, but I think I'm supposed to connect with this guy." And one was from the US and one was from Uganda. And over time, they had their own relationship that was forming, and I didn't know much of it. I certainly encouraged it. And they came to me several months later and said, "Hey, Andy, we want to start something called Lighthouse Farms International. And the intent of Lighthouse Farms is to come alongside social entrepreneurs who want to start a business, but who want to do it in a way that's advancing the kingdom. It's loving people. It's doing all the things that we've talked about. Um, could you do that with us, and could you help us?" And so I said no at first, because apparently I say no too much. And then God said, say yes. And so I ended up engaging with them. Um, and it's been a tremendous journey with Michael. And it's been a tremendous journey in starting a goat farm that's done some wonderful things that we're going to talk about here shortly. And then late last year, wasn't seeking it, but I felt like God really laid on my heart, "I want you to begin to focus on that. I want you to put your energy into that." And so I did, and I began to lean into it. And one of the things that we did was we decided to change the name. We changed the name from Lighthouse Farms International to Citadel Global Ventures, for a very specific reason. A citadel is an encampment. It's a bunker. It's a fortress that protects a city. And so if we can help create businesses that protect communities, that serve people, that love, that are not there to take, but are there to give, we'd be very excited about doing that. And then also train them and do all the things that go along with helping them have a successful business, and have successful marriages, and have successful relationships with their kids. And so this year, we've doubled down on what's now Citadel, and we've put a lot of energy and a lot of time into it. And I also said, "God, I need you to bring people, because I can't do this on my own." And then lo and behold, another friend's daughter, we was sitting and we were chatting, and she's like, "Andy, I think God might be leading me to come do this with you." Mind you, she was going to go change the world through like Starbucks or McDonald's or she was going to go through sourcing. She was going to do these massive things. All of her dad's friends wanted her to come work for them. I mean, she's a sought after girl. And she's like, "I think God's leading me to come work for you." And I was like, "Really?" This would be great. And so we both prayed on it and asked God, and we felt like it was something that God was highlighting. And so I want to give you guys a chance to get to know Kenzie a little bit, for those of you who don't. Kenzie, could you introduce yourself a little?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the introduction there. And there was as much energy on my part as there was on yours. And I know clearly my parents are on here. They've known me my whole life. I know I've known a lot of you for a long time, but there are others that I'm just meeting for the first time. So I'll give kind of background on who I am and what shaped me and why I'm here today. So I just, in the last 6 months, graduated with my undergrad degree in marketing from North Central College out in Naperville here. And I, during that time, was able to be a part of some really amazing things happening on North Central's campus, mostly focused around business and entrepreneurship. And I was involved with this student-run coffee business during my time there. We were working with a direct trade coffee growers association in Guatemala, and it was like this really tangible experience of advocating for people in developing countries through the practice of business, and kind of put like very tangible things to some thoughts that had been started many years before. In 2014, I think, my mom and I had traveled to Uganda and had met Michael on that first trip. And we're working with a nonprofit, very like kind of traditional in the sense of they're taking care of the needs of the community as far as providing shelter and education and their feeding programs, all really good things. I just during that time started to realize that the people that they were serving, there was no like off ramp out of the nonprofit, no way that these families were going to stand on their own feet, no way that these kids were going to, graduate high school and have a job. They were really like, they were highly educated people that were all of a sudden entering a job market where there were no jobs. And so they were ending up back at their family farms, farming for sustenance. And I just had become really curious of like, how do we address a larger issue? How do we use the resources, multiply them instead of just consuming donations constantly? How do we do this in a way that really establishes communities, builds a local economy, and really at the core of it gives people an opportunity to feel encouraged and loved and equipped rather than just a part of consuming resources, really. So that's why I ended up in business school. That's why I was curious about what got me into coffee. And then throughout school, I had started a small business of mine in high school, and then helped other friends establish businesses in college. And kind of my journey of entrepreneurship was going. And I had just thought, like, at some point in life, I want to get to a point where I am supporting entrepreneurs in developing countries. And I just thought, like, I'll get there later. Like, I need to establish myself, and really, like, I need to be credible before I do that. And so that's why I talked with Starbucks and some other firms, and just kind of figuring out like what opportunities are available to me. And during that time, I was in my car driving away from a conversation with my mom one day and felt pretty smacked by God, like, go work with Andy. I was like, no. And then just brought up the conversation, like Andy said, I think this is what God's asking me to do. And it really has been. The funnier thing in it is at the time that we had decided, yeah, this is good, I would tell my parents, this is what's happening. My mom goes, yeah, I've been telling you to do that for months now. So I guess I should have just listened to my mom to begin with. But yeah, here now, and just recently joined the team, and excited to see this work grow.
Yeah, and we truly are excited to have Kenzie. And I'm not kidding. Like, her friends, or Steve's friends have recruited. I mean, Steve tried to give her enough raises where she wouldn't listen to God. I mean, who knows what was going on there? But I'm just kidding. But all that said, we are truly excited.
Hey, Andy.
Yes.
No, you're not.
Well, maybe I thought I was kidding.
I tried to hang on to her. I even tried arm wrestling God and found out I'm not strong enough.
Right. Well, it's good to learn that lesson now, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And so, I mean, we practically want to be able to come alongside these leaders, and we practically want to help them figure out what it means to follow Jesus, and do it in business, and do it. And when money starts coming in, how do you serve God and not money? When things are going poorly, how do you not live from a place of fear, but from a place of faith? There's very practical things that it looks like to follow Jesus and live led by the Spirit. And so we're very excited. So our model is something that I've done over the years in hodgepodge ways, and we're consolidating it and creating it into a little bit of a system. So Kenzie, can you help us understand it a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely. Really, the like Andy said, if we're coming alongside of entrepreneurs, really our best place to start was just to go, like, what do they need? And really, if you guys have ever, many of you on this call are entrepreneurs, if you've been around people that are entrepreneurial, like, they will figure out how to make it work no matter what. And so the question really came up of what's blocking them from being able to build a business of impact. And it came back to these four things in our conversations. And one was just relationships with other entrepreneurs and being able to connect across cultures, but also to be able to see, like, what's happening in their own country that they're just not aware about because of their context and what they live in, whatever it is. So the biggest thing that we're doing is building relationship and connection for entrepreneurs. that second leg of it is mentorship. So really, if they're in a spot, they need to know what is even ahead of me, where can I go next, and who can help encourage me in the process. And that's a large part of what we've seen with Michael, was just somebody to back him up and to say, if this fails, we still have your back. If something goes wrong, we'll help you figure it out. And I know for him, that has been an incredible encouragement and probably the most crucial piece of his journey. But the third piece is their education and knowledge. Some of the entrepreneurs we're working with may have previous experience in business, or like in the example we're going to hear, it may just be kind of natural entrepreneurs, people that are curious about these ideas and will naturally do it, but just don't have the education or the oversight to be able to run, manage the day-to-day things. The last piece of it, though, is the financial investment, just to get them going. Think of it as like their seed round of funding. And in some cases, it may be as small as a couple grand, maybe a little bit larger than that. But really, as I mentioned in my story, we want to be a part of not just consuming resources and taking, but really investing wisely into people relationally. They're not just a kind of a piece of a puzzle to build a greater thing. We're investing in them as a person. And investing in their future and how they will continue to impact and grow their communities. Tangibly, this is kind of what this looks like. We think about this in 3 buckets. So gather, support, multiply. It's our kind of simplest way of thinking about this. But like I mentioned earlier, a lot of entrepreneurs they needed the community of people around them. And so we're gathering together not only the entrepreneurs, but people that can be mentors and advisors in the process. So many of you on the call, we've also talked with you guys about being a part of that. Somebody that could just, like I said, come alongside of them and help them figure out their journey. And then also investors that are minded around multiplying impact, minded around long-term sustainability. The next leg of it is just about supporting them in all the ways that we talked about. We do this through a 6-month-long cohort. So we're in the process of building that first group that will really be like the first Citadel group. Probably 6 to 8 entrepreneurs meeting together once a week via Zoom, we have people joining from Ethiopia and Rwanda, Tanzania, Nicaragua, countries all over the globe that are going to just be sharing ideas together. We're getting them mentors in the process and coaching them on building their business plans and really finding ways to invest in them personally. And from that, as they're building their businesses, the multiply piece is really what we're excited about, not only in their personal development, but seeing those opportunities multiplied across their country. So in Michael's example, he's built this goat farm where he's caring for over 300 goats at this point. It has several shepherds that are helping him do it, and has hired administrative staff to be able to do that as well. And so not only is employing people, but then using the resources of the farm to pay for education for several girls in the community that he's been connected with. And really using all of those resources to help people understand this concept of freedom, to be free from a cycle of poverty, to be free from any traps of religion or relationships, family, whatever it may be. But this is a place in which their business is, like, the name of Citadel, or a place of refuge, a place of protection from whatever it may be. And everybody that's decided to be a part of the cohort has also agreed to be a part of an ongoing community in which they can be mentors to somebody else later on down the road, in which they can bring people from their community to be greater entrepreneurs after them. So we want to see this be a cyclical thing. We don't want to lose people out of the end, because it's all about building relationships, and we want them to be a part of this ongoing.
Absolutely.